Hi everyone, welcome to Naughty Yarnies. My name is Barb. I'm coming to you from Ontario, Canada, and I'm so glad you found me here today. Welcome to my home and my channel. If you're new here, I hope you enjoy and you get something out of my podcast. And if you're a crocheter, stick around. There's also a crochet version of my podcast. I just do them separate now. And if you enjoy it, take a minute, hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. If you're a returning viewer, thank you. Welcome back. Settle in, get cozy, everyone, and enjoy, because I've got lots to throw at you today in this version. I had a couple of really good weeks this week. I don't like to say too much about personal stuff because I like to get right into the yarn. I just wanted to say that I spent a couple of days in my yarn room cleaning it up and tidying and organizing things, and I'm super excited that I got a chance to do that because I'm testing so many different things right now that usually takes away from my time that I can get organizing things. But it's so much easier to find stuff. So if you're going to look for a certain color of yarn and you got to get through a pile of boxes in the way because you just, you know, have stuff, all project bags and boxes and stuff, then you got to go through them all. So it's much better now. I can actually find anything that I want and I know what I have, so no sense in purchasing extra. So I'm super duper excited to show you everything that I finished. I've got quite a few finished objects. I don't have very many whips left in knitting. I really don't. I think I might just have one. Yeah, I think I just have one knitted project. I have two, but one I haven't, like our socks, and I haven't worked at all on them. And I might talk about that, but all right. So first of all, I will show you, if you watched my crochet version last week, or 2 weeks ago, I made these owls, and there was a third one, and it was a great big one, and I thought I was keeping that one and that my son would want one of the smaller ones for his little, fall scene that he has. Like, I keep making him crochet pumpkins, acorns, leaves, and I thought I would throw an owl in. Well, he ended up choosing my great big one. I'm glad he loved it, but it was like, oh, that's the one that I wanted to keep for myself. But I'm glad he loved it, and it's going to a good home. And he also took the crochet pumpkin as well. So I thought I would actually knit a pumpkin as well this week. So I knit another pumpkin and I put a stick in. Now this is just some really thick yarn that I used and stuffed, and I pretty much just did a tube and stuffed it and then weaved the ends in and around and then pulled the yarn around and around. You'll see what I mean. Let's see if I can. You see how I twisted the yarn around the pumpkin? So that makes it all puckered. So there's not any big secret. It's basically just knitting a big tube. You can knit it in the round if you like on 9-inch circulars like I did, so you don't have to have a crease down the side. Or you can knit it flat even and then just mattress stitch the side together and then do the same, bunch it up on this and bunch it up on this. So really simple pattern. I got a stick, put it in the middle from outside, and it's good to go. My son can have a pumpkin, another pumpkin to add. All the pumpkins that I've did for him are all different colors and sizes, but they're all crocheted. So this will be the first knit one that he could add to his collection. So this is just a pattern by me, and it's pretty basic. It's just like a basic rectangle. So if you're doing it flat, just a long rectangle but shorter, so that when you, like, not this short, I guess about, I guess maybe about 3/4 the size in height as it is wide. So a rectangle for sure. So if that makes any sense, I'm probably confusing you. If you're at all interested, I'm sure there's patterns out there as well. If you would like to know more, I'm pretty sure I wrote notes somewhere and I can let you know how many stitches and so forth. It also depends on the yarn you use, and that yarn that I used was like a number 7, really, really thick yarn. I got it in a Hirschner's surprise bag, and they're humongous balls, but there's not very much in it because it's actually like a fabric and then it's got foam in the middle, so it makes it like really, really thick. So yeah, I hope you liked the pumpkin. So my next things I did were, oh, where did I put those now? Of course, I buried the second thing I wanted to talk about. So the next thing I did were for Fiber Hustle, they had a dishcloth along, so a make along for dishcloths. You could have crocheted, knit, or weaved them, and there was no prizes or anything. It was just for fun and to load Instagram full of all your photos. Well, when they were having it that day, it was Canadians' weekend for Thanksgiving, and I completely forgot because that was the weekend that I was cleaning my yarn room, and then I didn't remember till like 2 days later that it was done, and I wasn't on Instagram. So I was like, I forgot to put the pictures up, but I did some. So I first did 4 knit dishcloths. I did crochet ones, but you'll see them on the crochet podcast. So I did one in Christmas colors. These are all just that Bernat or Lilies and Cream, that kind of idea. I did 2 smaller, I like a big one sometimes, and sometimes I like the smaller ones. So I did 2 smaller versions. And then I did this pattern, and this pattern was me learning, what's that called? It's a pattern that people use to do a blanket, cozy memories blanket type thing. I just made a bigger square, and because I was practicing for that. And then I did little scrubby. I used 1 strand of Bernat cotton yarn, and I used the spool of tulle. I should have brought one out. A spool of tulle, and I use a electric bread knife, and I cut it in half, and then I cut each half in half. So it's on a spool, and it's there end up to be 1.5 inches wide, and I hold that together with the Bernat cotton, and I knit it. I do 13 to 15 stitches wide, whatever I feel like doing for the day, and I knit it. And these things are awesome. I throw mine in the dishwasher because they get lost in the washing machine, and yeah, they last for a long, long time. I've gifted these to people in their stockings and things, and they last like a year. Like, keep using them and using them and using them. They're so durable. They last a year. Then I seen at was it Michael's? No. When we went to Fabricland, my husband took me to Fabricland to see their selection of yarn, and I found this Dynasty dishcloth yarn. And it's like that scrubby stuff that they have at Michael's and Walmart and stuff. And so I wanted to try some scrubbies just with that. So I did a knitted one. I don't even remember what size needles I used. Probably a 4.5. And I just I think I cast it on something like 20 stitches and just did a little rectangle. So I'm hoping that's as durable as this, but I could probably get 6 scrubbies this size out of it. I also did a crochet one with this, so you'll see that in my crochet version. So I did that for the knit along, or actually it was a make along, because like I said, you could crochet, knit, or weave your dishcloths. And then next we have, next I made some socks for my son, my oldest son, for Christmas. His third and final pair for his Christmas gifts. I've made him 3 pairs, and there's one pair that I'm not sure. They look like they're going to be a little bit snug, so I'm not too sure about those, but these ones definitely are going to fit. So he is a size 12 foot, men's 12 to 13, and I use Patton's Croy sock yarn in the colorway Greener Pastures. This is all I have left. This little nugget out of 2, was it 2? No, I must have used 3 skeins. Yeah, I probably used 3 skeins. This is probably what's left out of 3. What I usually do is what's left, I will fold up the little tag. I will roll it in a ball. I will tuck the little tag in there. And then I have a little pickle jar. Oh, it's unraveling on me, of course. I have a little pickle jar with all my little sock ends that I have left. So I wind them all into balls and I just drop them in the pickle jar. I mean, it's washed up. If I was to leave the lid on, I'm afraid if I leave the lid on that it might start still smelling pickly, even though I've washed the jar, but I don't know. But I just leave them all in there, and then I'm going to hopefully one day have enough scrappy ones to do a scrappy set of socks or something like that. So here are his socks, and I will tell you a little bit about them. Last time you seen I was doing 2 at a time, but on separate sets of needles. So I have 2 sets of sock needles the same, and what I do is I start at the cuff and I do both cuffs, and then I do the leg on one, then I go to the other and do the leg on the other. Then I go and do the heel flap and the heel flap, then the gusset, the heel turn, the gusset, then I do the foot, and then I do the toe, and then the toe. That way I'm fresh on my mind which part I'm on. So here's how they worked up. They're just lovely. Aren't they pretty? They turned out so nice. So nice. I didn't even try to match them this time. The last set that I made for him, I matched them completely perfect. Like, even the heels were matched and everything. But he's the kind of kid, I shouldn't say kid, he's almost 28, but that he wears mismatched. He wears mismatched socks. Anyway, so it doesn't really matter to him. But here's the recipe. They're just vanilla socks. I use 2.25 millimeter, which is, I believe, a number 1 US. I do 72 stitches. I have a knit 1, purl 1 cuff. Normally I do a 40 row leg, but I did 60 rows by accident. That's why they're so tall. So I did 60 rows by accident. That's why I ran out of yarn down here. And then I do the heel flap, heel turn, and gusset because he liked the way those fit. And then I do, after the gusset, the final round of decreases, I do 45 more rows of the foot, and then that's perfect to where I start for the toe decrease. And the toe decrease I use, I don't know what the name of it is technically called, but you're decreasing 2 on each needle. So you're decreasing 4 on one round, and then you're knitting around. Then you're decreasing 4, you knit around. You keep going like that until you have, I think it's 6 stitches 16 stitches on each needle, and then you start decreasing every single round until you're left with 8 stitches on each needle. And then you do the Kitchener stitch to close. So these are for my son Ryan for Christmas. He likes green. His toolbox, he's a mechanic and his toolbox is green. So figured he would like these. I hope this, like I used the ring light this week because it's so dark, and I'm hoping that the glare is not too bad for you. All right, so that's those socks. I'm just going to throw them over there, out of the way. Which way should I do this? Okay, my next pair of socks, and my mom, so mom, if you are watching, look away while I'm talking about your socks. She knows she's getting socks. She knows I'm making her socks for Christmas, and I don't want her to peek and see them. So look away for a little bit until you hear me talking about something different. So when I start talking about a hat, you can look back. But mom, close your eyes, look away, do what you gotta do. So I made these for my mom for Christmas. Now these were made with Patton's Croy sock yarn as well. Me and my husband went to Michael's. She wanted blue, so we had to find some blue sock yarn. Not that easy around here, and of course it's never on sale. But I did the 2 socks how I do them, like do one and then one and then one and then one, and I didn't even get to the heel part, or not the heel, I didn't even get to the toe decreases, and I ran out of yarn. So I was going to just do toes in a different colored yarn, but I didn't have any solid sock yarn. So when my son asked me to go up to Michael's the following weekend, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna need to grab another ball. So these socks are $30 socks because they took 3 balls of the Croy sock yarn. And yeah, and I only did a 40 row leg, and I did the exact same as my son's size, because they fit my mom. And same with the heel cuff, I did all the same. So 72 stitches, 2.25 millimeter knitting needles, then the 40 rows for the leg, the heel flap, heel turn gusset, 45 rows after that, and then the toe. But I ran out on row 38, so I didn't even get to 45. So I would have had to do 38 to 45 in a solid color, and then the heel. But I thought my mom probably wouldn't have liked that, so she probably would have just wanted to have them to be the solid color anyway. Not that they're solid color, but the solid ball of yarn. So so I only have left this much out of the 3 balls, so that'll be going into my pickle jar. Actually, it doesn't even fit in the pickle jar. It's sitting on top. It's like an ice cream scoop. So this colorway is called Cascade Colors, and this yarn is Croy Socks FX, the Patton's Croy Socks FX, and they're 50-gram balls only. Okay, so that's my mom's. So mom, you can look now if you choose. And next we have the Muscleberg Hat. So I bought this yarn, beautiful purple yarn, when I was at the Knitting Loft in Toronto. And oh, I just love, of course it's for me. I love, love, love purple. And I wanted to do the Muscleberg knit along with the ladies over on We Share Needles, who are Kristen and Maddie, and they're hosting a hashtag Show Us Your Muscles Cal. And so check that out. That's on Instagram and in their Ravelry group. And it's going on till October 31st. So you still have time. So I thought I went to long enough. I still have a little nugget left of yarn, so I could have did a little bit more. So what I do is I weigh my ball when I start, how much grams there are to completely start. Then I do my increase section. Then I weigh my ball and I write that down, what's left, and I weigh I don't weigh this. I subtract that number. So I subtract what I have left after the increase part from what the beginning part was. So then I get a total in grams, and I know how many grams it's going to take for my decrease part, which is the other end, because it's like a big sausage. So it's like one size increase, one size decrease. So when you're using, it's like a one skein wonder, right? So when you're going along and knitting and knitting and knitting, you knit and you keep weighing your ball. And if your ball, say it took 10 grams maybe. I'm not saying it took me 10 grams, but say it took me 10 grams for the increase section, it's going to take me that for the decrease section. So I keep knitting and knitting and knitting until I get to 10 grams left of my ball, and then I know I got to start the decreases. So this is a fingering weight yarn. I learned a few things for the pattern. It's a paid for pattern by Isolde Teague on Ravelry. I learned a few things. I learned when I'm doing the increase section and the decrease section that my knitting is a lot tighter. So when you're doing this pattern, you need to measure for gauge, but my gauge totally changed. I've knitted this twice. Actually, I've knitted it 3 times. I've knit it to halfway and then realized how large it was, and the amount of money you pay for the ball of wool, you don't want to just not wear it. You want to make sure you get your use out of it. So I tore it all back and had to do it again. So I wrote notes down on my page to note that if you use a larger, you should go up a size for your increases and decreases of a needle size than you do for the main body. Because as you're going round and round for the main body, if you're like me anyway, you're going to be looser. So I used a 3mm to do the cast on, or the increase and the decrease, and I used a 2.5mm for the main body, so that it still is a little looser than it is the increase and decrease section. So I could probably even go down to a 2mm for the main body, but it's comfy. And I think if I blocked it, it would probably block out really nice. But I'll show it to you on. Here's how beautiful the increase and the decrease sections are. I'll show you that first. And then I will show it to you on. So this tucks in. This pattern is for fingering all the way up to worsted. You could probably do it in bulky even if you could figure out the math. It's all about math with this pattern, and it took me like 5 tries to figure out my equation. So as you can see, I didn't do it long enough to be really a slouchy hat without folding the brim. There it is. See, it's a little bit slouchy, but not terribly. I can fold up the brim a little bit. Look how cute that is. I don't know if it looks cute on me, but I would just rather, in the Canadian winters, we really need a wider brim to cover our ears, the back of our head, our forehead, that kind of thing. So, but I'm still gonna wear it. But I'm addicted to making these now. So now that I know my formula, and you know, I tried to find out answers. I looked at Ravelry pages and people's pages trying to figure out which, you know, which needle size to use, but nobody would give it. Like, I had the pattern already. I just wanted to know which size needles, but yeah. It was tough. It was a tough mathematical, because when you're increasing and then you got to knit at least about 30 to 40 rows before it expands to be the full width, and that's when you realize whether you're too small or too big. So I knit it using the magic loop. I did the pinhole cast on, that's what you start with, and I used magic loop instead of using DPNs. And then when I got to the right circumference around where the round and round knitting went, I actually used just my 3-inch Chalgu shorties. I used the 3-inch, so that was on each end, so that was 6 inches, and I used I think an 8-inch or a 10-inch cord. So it was like 10, I think it was 14. So I think I used only an 8-inch cord, and I had 14 inches of round and round. So I couldn't really try it on unless I put it back on the magic loop and made it large enough. But so now I got a hat to put in for the Show Us Your Muscle cowl. I've had this done for a couple weeks. It should have been in already. I haven't even taken pictures or anything for it, but I just love it. I love this yarn. I love how it feels. I love how warm it is. I can't wait to wear it. I love it. I love purples, so beautiful. Great pattern. Highly recommend it, and you'll probably get addicted to knitting it too. Now for my last, and certainly not least, FO, check this beauty out. Isn't it gorgeous? Like, this is Grandma's Medley sweater by the designer Tina Say, or Tina Say Knits on Instagram and Ravelry. I tested this for her, and oh, I'm a terrible tester. Her testing date was over on Monday, but the sleeve island just threw me. Like, going round and round. And to do sleeves just in stockinette is one thing, but when you've got patterned and multiple yarns and things, it's a whole nother ball game. But I totally enjoyed every second of it. I used my own hand-dyed yarns. What can I tell you about it? This is, of course, a paid-for pattern. She does a graduated amount that you pay, so you pay kind of what you could afford. So if you can afford to pay for the full price of her patterns, she greatly appreciates that. But if you're having a rough time and go at it, there's a couple of tiers down. You can choose your price point that you want to pay. She's amazing. Like, she deserves of course deserves the top, but what you can pay, you got to respect that. So I did the size extra large. I used my own hand-dyed yarns. So I've got a yellow speckle, an orange speckle you'll see here, and then the collar color, you'll see the collar color, and then the colors with this section's all here and the stripes in here. That one's a variegated color. So I dyed these yarns specially for this sweater for a fall, to have a fall sweater. So I made it for fall just in time, just a couple weeks. Fall's just in for a couple of weeks now. So a couple things that I learned while I was doing the sweater. Like, without giving pattern away, I don't want to give anything about the pattern necessarily away, but a couple things that I chose to do. So in her pattern, she has, you choose which bind offs you want. This is one thing that I'll talk about. I chose I heard about the Jenny's Super Stretchy Bind Off, and I thought I would want that for the cuffs. But my cuffs, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, they kind of flare out a little bit. So I was not happy about the flaring. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to block it a little bit and it look not so wavy, because it's a little bit on the wavy side. So when I got to the collar, to pick up for the collar, because it's a bottom up sweater, and so you pick up for, let's turn her a little bit. This is Myrtle, by the way, named by my friend Scott. So Myrtle has on the sweater, and on the neckline, we're in a group on Slackbot, I believe it's called, all the testers and Tina. And so I had to cast off last night, but I thought, okay, I'm not going to cast off tonight. I'm just going to ask the group a question. When I get up in the morning, I'm going to see what everybody answered, if anybody answered me, and try that. So I had asked which bind off to do that wasn't the super stretchy one, because I didn't want it puffy and flared out around the neck like the sleeves are. I definitely did not want that. So one woman had said that she just did the regular bind off and it worked perfect for hers. So I looked at her pictures, but she didn't have her sweater finish for me to look at. When she had it, the picture she just had the needles still in it. So I wasn't convinced that the regular one would work. I thought maybe it would make it a little too snug around my neck. So another woman recommended, and she even gave me a link and everything to Very Pink Knits video for the Icelandic Bind Off. Check it out, people, because it's even easier than a regular bind off. It truly, truly is. And I'm doing the ribbing around the neck part here is knit one, purl one for the most part. There's other things in there, but knit one, purl one for the most part. So most times you have to cast off in pattern, but with the Icelandic Bind Off, it looks perfect just the way it is. Like, I didn't have to do it in pattern or anything. I just did exactly what Very Pink Knits did right from the get-go. And I tell you, it was super. You know how when you're doing a regular cast off and you always say you get interrupted and you put your knitting down, you always have that one stitch on your right hand needle that can pop off, or if you set it down and don't put a cork on it or something, you lose your spot, right? Well, you avoid that with the Icelandic Bind Off. You don't have that one stitch. The stitch is always transferred back to the left needle. So you have it on the right needle for a second, but then you put it back on the left needle. So basically what you're doing is you're knitting the first stitch. I'll just explain a little for anybody wondering. You knit the first stitch for your round, and then you twist it a little bit and you put it back on your left needle. Okay. Then you take your right needle and you insert it as if to purl through that first stitch that you just put back on the left needle, but you stick it back further into the second stitch that's on your left needle, and you scoop it kind of and knit, pull that knit through, and you pull both stitches off. So you'll end up with one stitch on your right needle and one that's flipped over. So then you twist your needle and you put it back on your left needle. Your right needle's empty now, your left needle has all the stitches on it. Then you do the same thing. You insert it like you're purling, but you're scooping up the second stitch over, and then you're pointing it this way. Then you're wrapping your yarn around and knitting through, knitting that one off, but then you're pulling them both over. Oh, it is super, super neat, super duper easy. I found it fast and it's so clean looking. It kind of gives, if you crochet, and you know on the top of crochet there's links on the top, so you flip it sideways and you see the beautiful clean line. That's what it looks like all on the inside here. It just looks like all beautiful chains. It's such a beautiful, beautiful finish. Like, I think I'm going to use that all the time. I haven't wet blocked this yet. I've only steamed blocked this because I wanted to get pictures of it today, and yeah, I think it'll look a lot better once I wet block it though, because this section here, because they're done two different ways. This section here, this half of the body is shorter, and this section here through the body is higher because of the way the stitches are. So I will put some pictures here. Hopefully I've been doing it. It's raining today, so I can't do outdoor photos, but maybe I could do some outdoor photos before I even put the podcast up for you to see it. So my yarns that I used, I used for the main skein, which is the color, the multicolor around the collar. I used one whole skein, and just like, look how much I have left of this nut, the second one. And that's an extra large size, so I barely used any. Then for the orange, I used not even a whole skein. This is what I have left of the first skein. Okay, and then, oh, and I have also this ball of the multicolor one. So I have this. I just didn't want to use this case I run out and I had an end. And I used of the yellow, that was the one I used actually the most of. The most? Yes. The yellow I used the most of. I used one whole skein, and this is all I have left of. It's quite a bit left of the second, but it's, I definitely have more of the first one left than I do of the second. I wanted to tell you a little story about my main color of yarn. Before I even started, like, I offered a test for her and I didn't even cast it on yet. I purchased yarn, I dyed the yarn, I went to wind the yarn, I put it on my Swift, went to put it on my yarn ball winder. It was winding, going along good. Turned my back for 1 second and I have the electric one. I did have the electric one. Well, I still do, but anyway, I'm not going to use it too much anymore. I turned my head for 1 second and the ball or the cake, whatever you call it, went shooting off the machine, flying across the room, and it was still spinning and it was a mess. I was super lost my cool. I picked it up and I said, oh well, I have two. So I wound the second one, not even worrying about the first one. Sat down that evening and I was going to wind the knots. Well, I had it in a big bowl and it was so full of knots that I said, I can't deal with it right now. I just want to get the sweater started. So I put my second ball in and I said, oh, I'll just start on the sweater. So I did the whole entire sweater until I got to the second sleeve, and that's when I needed that ball that was all twisted and knotted and turned. And all I did that night, my husband was sitting there and I just went, oh. And he says to me, give me your bowl. And I knew what he meant. And I'm like, no, 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 you do not have to do that. You do not have to fix my mistake. Like, I was so over it. Like, it was just a disaster. Like, I even posted on Instagram the mess in the bowl. Like, I had a couple of people, including Kelly from Knit Swag. Thank you, Kelly. I'm sure you're not watching, but she offered to, said she loves untangling yarn. I'm like, oh, I should have just sent it to her. 2 months it sat in that bowl, not doing a darn thing while I was knitting. But I had no choice then. It's like, oh, I have to use that yarn. I need that yarn. My husband sat here for 14 hours. 14 hours. He sat here from 11 a.m. until 3 a.m. the next day. I mean, he went to the washroom a couple times and he stopped to eat supper. That was it. And he powered through like he was a champ. He came to me, I think, twice because he had a couple of really tight knots where I had to get a needle and kind of separate the knots a little bit for him. The whole time, though, that he was untangling this ball of yarn, I knit a whole sock. Like, I sat here and I knit a sock, one of my mom's socks for Christmas, while he was doing it. So I thanked him so much, and I went to Instagram and I posted a picture of the before mess and then the after cake. So thank you, honey, so much. What I put on Instagram was, that's true love. When somebody does something to you, isn't that romantic? Like, he knew I had more things to do. He knew he had a sore back that day, so he was just taking a day to himself. And so he says, I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here. You go ahead and knit, and I'll work on this. But we didn't realize it was going to take 14, did I say 14 or 13? I think it's 14 hours to do that. Oh, that was so sweet. And so then that's why it put me a day behind, but that's my fault because I kept pushing that aside, that screwed up ball. I just kept pushing it aside, pushing it aside. Live and learn. But now I just use my Knit Picks ball winder, which you crank, so it's not going like zzz, like my electric one was, and just looked away for 1 second. Yeah, I'm not using that too often anymore. Fine. The Grandma's Medley sweater. Watch my Instagram. I'll let people know when it's out. But she said she's planning to release it mid next week. So it should be around by the 28th of October. So by Halloween for sure it will be out. But she had said like the 27th. So I'm going to say the 28th for sure. But for sure by Halloween. Great fun pattern. It looks so amazing. I'm actually going to do one in Christmas colors. So I didn't even finish this, and I wanted to dye some yarn one weekend for something to change a pace. And so I said, I'm going to dye some yarn to do that in Christmas colors. I'm going to change a few things about the pattern, but because I'm going to do a whole section like all the way around maybe with this stuff, and then this section here maybe do up here. I'm going to just play with it and figure things out. I might just do the sleeves, like there's 3 different sections of the sleeve, and I might just do stockinette sleeve, just do one red and the other one green or something like that. But here's the yarn. Oh yeah, here's the yarn that I dyed for my Christmas version. Bum, bum. So as you could tell, I've got lots now because I didn't know, I dyed this before I knew how much yarn I was going to use. So I've got 3 of the main color, which I know now I'm only going to need 1. I'm going to say 1.5 because I'm actually going to do a larger size. And I'm going to do it longer. That fits me to about my belt, the zipper, halfway through my zipper of my jeans. But I would like to have it a little bit longer and like comfy cozy. So I will definitely need 1.5 of these, but that'll give me one for if I want a matching hat and socks even. I have one for that. And then the green will be the yellow, because I know I used a second skein of that. And then I've got the red for to use like the orange. So hopefully, and I mean, if I ran out of one color or another, like I said, I'm changing things up. So I instead of doing a sleeve in red and green, I could do one in variegated and one in green, or both in green, or whichever. So because for some reason I only did one red. I could go back and change that, but yeah, there's the red and the green. Of course they're lighter. It's because of my ring light why they're showing up so bright. And then and if you could tell, the yarn that I dyed here, you could see the white undertone. It's because this yarn is my 70, how does it go? 70% merino, 20% bamboo, 10% nylon. So the bamboo doesn't take the acid dye, so it actually rinses off. So it leaves a little bit of a white undertone, and some of the color actually comes out of it. But that's what I like about it. It really makes for a nice tonal yarn with some of that color that washes out of it. So I can't wait to get started on my Christmas sweater. And the only other finished object I have, which isn't really a object, it's more like I did a swatch. So when we were out shopping one day, I came across this yarn, just this pack of, I'm guessing it's acrylic, it's just a cheap, but it was Christmas colors. And my husband says, oh, couldn't you make just yourself some slipper socks or something just for the house for Christmas? And I said, oh yeah, I can't see why not. And it's rugged feeling and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do a swatch to see what size needles I need and everything. So I just worked on a swatch. I made a 6-inch wide by 6-inch tall, because I like to have the 4 inches in the middle to be able to measure. And I wrote down, so I used 4.5 millimeter knitting needles, and I used straight needles. Now that's important, because whatever kind of needles you use, you want to keep that information. I put down that the type of yarn, I put no tag because I don't know what it is. And then I measured my gauge. My gauge was 17 stitches wide by 22 rows high. And I just put a little tag on there, and I'm keeping that swatch so that I have it, so I know what my gauge will be with this yarn. So I can go ahead and plan my slippers, and then I'll know what size to make. So just wanted to show you one of my gauge swatches, or how I gauge swatch. Now the last thing I have is a whip, just one whip. I have my other socks that I made myself. If you watched the last podcast, the knit one, I made a pair of socks, and as I was recording, I realized I used 2 different size needles. Now, I was upset and embarrassed, but when I was talking to my husband that night about it, he says, well, isn't that good? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? How's that good? And he says, well, I thought you have one foot that swells sometimes. And I went, oh my gosh, you're right. I have one foot that's larger, and my socks are usually tight on it, which is my left foot, and then my right foot. So he says, just maybe mark it somehow, put a thing of thread or something on the inside of the cuff, so you know to wear that sock on your left one. So I used a 2.25 millimeter on the one sock and a 2.75 millimeter on the other. And it fits because I'm doing cuff down. I could put it in magic loop. I could try it on, and I put them on, and I'm like, that'll work. That'll totally work. So I'm not going to do that every time, but I'm all the way to the heel already, and I'm like, I don't really want to frog them, but I'm going to see how this works. I'm going to wear them a few times, and if that works for me, I might do myself a few pairs like that, so that I have comfortable socks that are made for myself, right? So my last knitted project, it's a whip. It's actually another test knit. Now that my sweater is done, I could focus on this. I'm supposed to have it done by the end of October, mid-November. It's for Cozy Up Knits, and they were looking for testers, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's I've wanted to test for them for over a year. So I'm so super happy, and I was busting my butt to get this done so that I could finish this shawl. I whipped through section 1. I'm on section 2 already. It calls for 5 different 50-gram colors of balls, and I ran out of my first color. I'm so bad. But the pattern is called Wayward Shawl by Cozy Up Knits, and they've shown it on their podcast already, so I can show it here, give them a shout out. And here's what mine looks like already. I put it on a nice long 50-inch cord, so the shawl is going to be like, I think it's 45 inches wide by the time it's done. But here is what we have going on already. So this bottom blue color, this is my hand-dyed yarn. And then the purple, I thought I'd use some of Wool-like. So this is, oh, where's my, oh, so I used up all of this hand-dyed blue. I don't have even an inch left. Then here is the Wool-like color. And then I'm going to go into this other hand-dyed one I did, which is blues and pinks and purples. From that. And then after that, I'm going to go into this dusty pink. It's a little tad darker than it looks there. And then my last color is going to be this gray, smoky gray with teal and blue speckles that I dyed. So those are all my colors, and it is a fading shawl, so that I should have a couple of fading stripes here, but because I ran out of this yarn before even the repeat, I had to go into the purple. So my last repeat for this section is actually up here, and so I had to switch to the purple right away. I did weigh my yarn, but I don't know what happened there. So maybe I didn't weigh my yarn. Maybe I just assumed there was 50 grams left because I had used it in my Vertices Unite. Oh, I'm having so much fun. Look at that lace work. I've never did lace before, but so cool. I'm sure I'm messing up, like that the holes aren't lining up or something, but I'm having a blast doing it, and I'm so honored to have been chosen to do the test for them. Now that'll be my main focus now, to finish that up. Next, I got some happy mail in the mail, and I say happy because it's something I won from Sweet Pea and Chickadee, which is Kimberly and Brooke. It was for their summer melt sock along. So one pair of socks, probably from Ryan for Christmas, and I won. They had given away, I think, 4 or 5 different skeins of yarn, and you didn't know what you were getting. So it was a total surprise when I opened it up to see which one I got. So here is the beautiful, I got a beautiful card as well. Thank you, ladies. Of course, usually I can wait until, but I just was so excited to see which one I won. So this is Knit-O-Logic by Knit Crate. It is a sock yarn, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. 439 yards for 100 grams. And the colorway is called Rufous Backed Kingfisher. Now, I'm not quite sure, because I have the one skein, if I want to do, I was thinking of a couple things. I was thinking of either to do another Muscleberg hat with this. It is super soft, like it's nice. Or to do a one skein shawl, and I'm not quite sure which to do. I think this would even match my sweater. All the colors in it. What do you think? Yeah. So thank you so much, Kimberly and Brooke. Oh, beautiful. So if you haven't checked out their podcast, they have a podcast here on YouTube called Sweet Pea and Chickadee. So recommend it. I really love it. Kimberly is the one who does all the knitting, and Brooke is her comedic sidekick who gets Kimberly, you know, laughing and giggling and entertains her, she says. I kind of need a Brooke in my life to sit beside me and make me giggle and laugh and stuff, right? But, oh well, we can't all have a Brooke in our life. So that was what I won from Sweet Pea and Chickadee. I also won a sock along type thing. It's called NKP Summer Sock Along with Jocelyn and Diana over on Northern Knits podcast. And I was able to pick a pattern from Nikki Knits D on Ravelry, and I chose her coffee date socks. She had a story as to where she got the pattern inspiration by, and that drew me in. Besides seeing the socks are gorgeous, but it's like, oh, I loved the story behind them, and it just resonated with me. So I'm like, yes, I would really love to have that pattern. So I'm waiting for that pattern yet to be gifted to me on Ravelry. I gave all my information, and then I could knit those socks and share them with you as I go. I can't wait for that. I was chosen, I just got an email there that last night I was chosen for the Fiber Hustle Halloween bingo, which is on October 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern for me here. So I have to, well, I don't have to, but you can decorate yourself and your background to be Halloween this time. And that's what I'm going to do. So part of my costume I will be showing on my crochet podcast, because I crocheted a part of it. So I'm not totally done it, but I'll show you what I've got so far. So that's with Chip and Aaron. Check out Fiber Hustle. Totally recommend their podcast. Love those guys. And then I'm looking up patterns for vintage knitting or crochet. The Boozy Bears podcast. They're Vince and Justin. Did I just say Justin? Vince and Justin over at Boozy Bears podcast. Recommend them, guys. They're so funny. Hashtag BBK Vintage 2021. And anything from in the 1990s. I think it's in the 1990s, or maybe it's 1990 or before. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I think it's anything in the 90s and before, but I'm not positive. But check out their podcast for further information. Now, I just have a few things that I picked up since I've last seen you. My son purchased me a book, and it's called, I'm just taking off the price tag here. My son purchased me a knitting book just for fun. So it has a bunch of different knitting patterns in it. Let's see if I can find a page that doesn't give away what's in here. Let's find a pretty picture. Most of them are showing, so here we go. Just to give you an idea. So very nice book. Thank you, Cole, so much for the book of knitting patterns. And then I was looking for, I wanted to do some DK weight socks just to try them. And I didn't have any DK weight wool yet to dye or anything, but I found the 70% acrylic, 30% nylon that's a high nylon content for socks. And so I thought I would just give this a whirl. I'm going to actually try dyeing this. It's 30% nylon, so the nylon will take some dye, but not the acrylic. It might take a lot of washing. I might just knit them up just like it is. But this is Patton's Beehive Baby Sport, and it's a number 3 weight yarn. And it's like a marled yarn or twisted yarn. One strand is gray and one is white. So I got that at Michael's. Then, not much more. I got a book just from the dollar store. It says sketch on it, but I'm going to put all my project notes in it. Like just things I did. Like, so I'm going to take a snippet of each color of my sweater and all my, like the pattern name, and I'm going to take a picture of me in it and put it in, and just kind of like a journal about my knitting and crochet, and have all the information in one place. Kind of like my own personal Ravelry. So I bought that for that reason. I picked up 3 skeins of, or hanks or whatever, Patton's Classic Wool Worsted. It's 100%, just 100% wool, like it's a woolly wool. And there's 3 of those. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with those yet. I might even dye those, I'm not sure. Then my husband got me this bag. It's pretty cool. Like it was, I think it was like $65 on for 20, no, maybe even $15. So it's a big tote. It has the holes on both sides for your yarn to come out of. So you could put, like it's huge. But inside it has this thing you open and it holds 8 skeins of yarn. So each section, like both sides, there's 4 on this side, 4 on this side, and you could put all your cakes in there and have that right in your tote, and away you go. You have it all inside. And then they also had, that was from Fabricland if you're interested, and then they had these cases at Fabricland. These were, I think they were $35 or $40 regular, and they were on for $11. But I wanted something where I could put all my shorty sets in and all my extra cords and things for my Chow Goo sets. So it has a zipper, it has a nice handle, and it's like a binder kind of. Okay, so on this side, I should have had these tucked in. So both sides, so on this side as well as on this side, you have a zipper part at the bottom, and then you have 3, I don't know how to show this, but you got 1, 2, 3, 4 slots that you could put sets of needles in. So you see this one's up here, and then there's something down here. Okay, and on the same on this side, I have the same. There's a zipper part down here for like notions or anything, and then you have just different slots you could put things in here or the next one up, whichever it fits. And then in the middle is these little almost like Ziploc bags. But what I have in there is I just have my Chow Goo shorty sets and all the little things that go with the shorties in both of them. So they're all in one place. I just found that really super handy, and for $11, so cannot go wrong there. Do I have anything else? Oh, I got a little teapot charm. Like a progress keeper or charm, and a little pin for my bag that says maker on it. Scissors. And then I wanted to give you a little tip. This is my last thing. I bought some tags, and normally what I do on the tags is if I'm putting a project away for a while in timeout, because I do that quite often, I normally will write a note where I am, what hook size I'm using, where I am in the pattern name, the yarn, all the information I can on something like this, a tag, and then I pin it. I have one of those, sorry if you can't see that, just one of those light bulb stitch markers. Probably can't even see it. Just have one of those attached, and I attach it to my project or on my project bag. But I thought I would do this instead on this one. Since I'm do the Muscleberg hat, and I'm going to do another one, I wrote down the instructions for make one left and make one right on one side. So I had it because I keep looking at it. Like, I'm always forgetting which way is make one left, make one right. Like, it takes me a while to clue in. And then on the other side, I put how to Kitchener a toe, or Kitchener, whatever it is you're Kitchenering up. So I have the instructions for both of those on both sides. So I just pin it to my Muscleberg hat or to my project bag, and I got my instructions for make one left, make one right, and I'm good to go. So yeah. Just thought I'd share that little tidbit with you there. So that's everything, everybody, for the knitting portion. I hope you're still with me. Sorry if it took too long. I tried not to go too far in detail with everything, especially like the patterns. A paid for pattern, I don't want to say too much, but I also want people interested in getting her pattern because it's so well written. It's so cool. That's what testers are for, is to converse with her back and forth, or any designer, and let them know where we might have struggled. Maybe they need to put a little bit more information or explanation. Maybe they forgot a word. Maybe they misspelt something. Like, it's not just about how many stitch counts and if it's the proper stitching, things like that. It's about everything. It's about spacing, grammar, everything. So that's what testing's all about, is the whole process. So, all right, everyone. It'll be a couple weeks more until my next podcast comes out for knitting. I'm hoping I'm done the Cozy Up Knits shawl by then. But if not, there's a lot of knitting involved in it coming up, because section 1 was the smallest section, and that took me a few days to get through. So I'm assuming the rest will take me a while yet too, but I can't wait to see it. It's going to be beautiful, beautiful. So I'm not doing, as you probably noticed, I'm not doing the Stephen West cowl. Am I the only person? I know I'm not the only person. I've seen quite a few that aren't doing it. I just don't have time. Like, I knew I had the sweater testing, and then I offered to test the shawl after the Stephen West, so that wasn't a problem. But I was also testing for Kayla Osborne for the crochet stuff, and I also have Christmas gifts to knit up, and my mom had asked me for socks. So I have to do socks, and they take a while. So, and I just finished doing my son's for Christmas up as well. So now I'll have to record my crochet version. So look forward to that. It'll be within the week. And take care, everybody. And happy Halloween. Have a safe, wonderful Halloween. If you're going to the Fiber Hustle Bingo at the one that's 4 p.m. Pacific time or 7 p.m. Eastern time, which is my time, that's the one I'll be at. Let me know down below if you're going to be at the same one. So excited, as I normally am. So yeah, I'm so super duper excited. I love bingo. I love the Fiber Hustle guys. I love meeting everybody in there and chatting. It's through Zoom, so it's so much fun. So I'm glad I cleaned my yarn room up so I can go play bingo in there and decorate in there, because it'd be harder to decorate in my living room. Enough chattering. So I love to chat with you guys in the comments. Let me know whatever you're working on, what you were doing while you were watching. If you skipped forward parts you thought I was boring, let me know. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already and you liked it. If not, I'm so sorry. I got a little chatty today. But until next time, everyone, keep on being naughty. Bye-bye.